Empowerment Talk Radio, your roadmap to business success. Tune in every Sunday at 3 p.m. on Rainier Avenue Radio.world, providing resources and sharing motivational experiences from the everyday entrepreneur. Tune in Women Empowerment Talk Radio every Sunday, 3 p.m. on Rainier Avenue Radio.world.
The Washington State Nonprofit Conference is the largest gathering of nonprofit professionals in the state. Visit nonprofitwa.org to learn more about this powerful gathering of leaders, employees, board members, and nonprofit supporters. You can join May 13th and May 14th in person, or May 16th in Spokane, or May 20th in Tacoma. With 30 workshops, 4 keynote sessions, and 4 distinct learning tracks, the Washington State Nonprofit Conference is an incredible opportunity to connect with experts and discover resources and strategies to drive positive change in your organization. Ready for action? Register today at nonprofitwa.org.
Hey, Seattle, tune in to Lidline Sports every Monday, 7 p.m. to 8 p.m.
What up, yo? We are back. This is Pep, and the man that don't take no mess, Mr. PIS, Mr. Stevenson. What say you?
I hope you see the hat that I'm wearing right now. That's how mad I am.
I do. Man, you are angry.
I just want to make that be known. Tune
in to Lidline Sports every Monday, 7 p.m. to 8 p.m.
Lidline Sports.
Love food? Here's some storage tips to keep it fresh longer. Store cut fruits and vegetables in the fridge. Place in reusable containers. Keep bread in the freezer for longer storage. 40% of food in the U.S. goes uneaten. Save money, save food, save the planet. Visit Seattle Public Utilities for more tips.
You know you can't get enough of Rainier Avenue Radio.world.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Juan Cotto touching bases with you live from the shores of Lake Washington with a cat on my shoulder. Stripes Cotto has decided to join us for the show today on your community radio station, Rainier Avenue Radio.world. Welcome back to WIAA Primetime, a live show. You caught Mick Hoffman and Juan Cotto in one spot, for crying out loud. And Mick, this time you're on the road. Did you catch that, Mick? Mick is obviously driving, and he will respond to us in a second. This is our first show since, I believe, in a few weeks ago when I was on the road to Olympia, Washington. I had some legislation that we were having a testimony on, so I was stopped in Tacoma, pulled over, and had a chat with Mick. And it looks like Mick is on the road today. I believe he's at one of the WIAA conferences, and here he is driving back. Of course, Mick all over the state. He could be driving back to Seattle. We are going to chat about spring sports today, and hopefully catch up with Mick Hoffman. We're going to chat about spring sports with a focus and emphasis on track and field, baseball, soccer, and the sports that happen in the spring. Talk about some of the follow-up activities and how the WIAA transitions from the fall sports and the championships down in Tacoma and the wrestling and the basketball and then moves into spring and some of the challenges that we have in the spring, because here in Washington State, we have this funny thing called weather. And we on Saturday, for example, we can have a 75-degree day and absolutely beautiful. And then today I'm looking for gloves to go on my morning walk with. So always a challenge and always some changes with the weather here. But nevertheless, we're going to discuss the impact that has on spring sports in the state of Washington, and just get a general check-in with Mick and see how things are going. Has he gotten to a spot where he's able to connect back with us? It doesn't look like it is, like he has. Well, I mean, just some of the things that occurred. For those who follow high school basketball and follow some of the things that go on, the Rainier Beach Vikings, as you recall, were able to win yet another state basketball championship. That was a very, very exciting evening for the Vikings and for those of us down here in Southeast and Central Seattle. Mike Bethea, who has, I mean, just really a legend, doesn't even describe what he has done and what he's accomplished at that school, just in time for the opening of the new building down at Rainier Beach. It happened just before the student body went on spring break. They came back to a brand new, gorgeous facility they put down there on the corner of Rainier Avenue and Henderson. And so many generations. My family, I think I've mentioned it before, my brother Andy is a Rainier Beach grad. I grew up with our family a little less than a mile away up the hill heading towards Skyway. And we certainly traveled down that hill, used to work out at that facility. Now Rainier Beach, beautiful new building, and will be a beautiful addition to that community down there in South Seattle, and so many people who need that, and the Seattle Public Schools and what they do with education and making sure that the kids have the proper facilities. It is a beautiful facility. They're building out the baseball fields, and I'm sure they will have a track and football stadium there, and I'm sure that the Vikings, coached by Coach Sampson, Coach Corey Sampson, will continue to make life difficult for Metro League challengers and other challengers that come down there. But sure is a beautiful location. Then, of course, if you were watching the NFL draft last weekend, how exciting was it? A former young man that I used to coach at Rainier Beach High School, and I always take credit. He made me one of the best offensive line coaches in the country, Josh Connerly, and then all of my hats go off to, I've said it before and I'll say it again, the best coaching staff in Washington State, Coach Corey Sampson and Quentin Jackson and Danny Hawkins and Coach Mike and all you guys. I love working with you, love you, brothers. And what a great job they did building a foundation for that young man. Josh Connerly, the number one draft pick for the Washington Redskins, his former lineman at the University of Oregon, where he did his college work. Josh, a tremendous athlete, playing football at Rainier Beach, offensive tackle, basketball, a center. I always told my friends, I said, I think Josh Connerly could easily play tight end. His hands were so good. Such an athletic young man, a big fellow who could really run, and just ready to see what his career does. And as Mick and I have talked about so many times, when you go to these high school athletic events, and I don't care where you're at in the state of Washington, when you think about Haley Van Lith and what she's accomplished, no matter where you're at, you're going to see professionals on the court. And there's always a chance that you're going to be able to see. We just had, for example, Cooper Kupp just came back to town. Spent his tremendous first 8 years of his career with the Los Angeles Rams. He is now going to be a Seattle Seahawk. And many people forget that he playing his career over in Eastern Washington at Richmond High School, I believe. And then obviously at Eastern Washington University. But there's a chance that you're going to see professionals every single night you come to one of our events. Is Mick ready to go?
I believe I am.
Hey, there you are. Hang on one second. I'm getting people calling me, and they're asking me, where is Mick Hoffman at? There we go. Mick, how are you? It's been a minute since we've seen each other.
It's been a bit. Yeah, my phone apparently overheated, so I had to restart. Got the AC on it now, so we're good.
Attaboy. We were just talking about some of the things that have happened, and I was just watching the NFL draft, and a lot of people were so focused on what was happening to Shedeur Sanders. I was just excited that in the first round we had kids coming out of the state of Washington. Had a wide receiver that was drafted. Then we had Josh Connerly, who played football at Rainier Beach High School. How exciting is it to see yet again? And you and I talk about this every couple of years, it seems. Actually, every year, our kids in Washington State who played in WIAA athletics, and they are now playing in the big league, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, Haley, I heard you mention quite a few of them there. It's exciting. I mean, that's the thing. Get people who are active going out watching high school athletes. You never know who you're going to be watching on TV, paying a lot more money to go see in the future. So, yeah, we have some great talent, great kids in the state of Washington.
It really speaks to all that goes into our athletic programs. I mean, you and I talk so much about the administrative part of it, the education part of it, but making sure that these kids have tremendous venues to play in, not only in their championship games, but in their regular league games. And Mick, all of the volunteers who participate to make these opportunity specials for our kids. And like the NCAA, their advertisement says most kids are going to go professional in other fields, but it is really exciting to see these kids whose talent we've all admired over the years get an opportunity to play in the next level.
Yeah, I was back in Indianapolis at our annual legal summit, and they had one of the attorneys from the NCAA, and he was talking about the unique position of high school athletics right now. And you think about it, colleges have essentially become professional sports with, especially now with some of these more recent court decisions. I mean, realistically, most of that money is going to football, basketball still. And, but at the youth level, we've talked about this several times, how club sports will become the largest, least regulated business in the country. But high school sports is still in that sweet spot where every kid can find a sport in their high school that they can participate on as a team member, no matter how much or how little money they have, no matter how much or how little talent. There are no-cut sport opportunities that every kid can take a part of. And when you see some of these unicorns on TV getting drafted, that's pretty cool. At the same time, you're taking care of 225,000 other kids that are getting the opportunity to play and represent their communities. And that's, no one else is doing that in the sports field any longer. Well, Juan, I don't know if you froze or I froze. Okay, I think we lost Juan, is what I'm being told. Yeah, I think we're gonna be in trouble, Juan. We're trying to do this remote. Daniel's gonna be all over us. I got cut out about the same time you did, so
that's all right. We will square things up with Daniel, and we will buy him a frosty cold beverage the next time we see him, maybe two. But it was just what a unique experience being at a track and field event. It was about 75 degrees. It was sunny. Every kid gets to participate. No one was complaining about the coaches. It's a beautiful time to be there. Following had the recording system there, so you can see all the scores and kids' performance. Track and field in the spring is a very, very special sport, but it really brings out a very unique community aspect that's so different from some of the other sports.
Yeah, I mean, there's a field event or a jump or a race for every kid, like distance, sprints, and then the field events. And we have some phenomenal athletes this year. We have one young man who unofficially broke the state record down out of Camas, Washington, at a league meet. So exciting to see what he does in the postseason. There's a couple of those sisters still from Capital that are competing, setting national records for the pole vault as well. So, it's not just our big money, big name sports that we have phenomenal athletes here. We had a gymnast in the Olympics that's still out competing. So, we're really lucky as we bounce around to state events to watch some very unique talent.
Tell us the participation numbers, and I know that we've seen a variety of sports shift around. I know that golf starts in the fall, and then they take some time off, and then they come back in the spring. But tell us, how do the spring sports participation numbers compare to fall and winter sports? And are we seeing? I mean, I know there's you have baseball, which certainly has its own select activity and its own select community. But how are the traditional spring sports doing attracting athletes?
Yeah, our understanding is we have a lot more fast pitch and sub-varsity soccer and baseball teams than what we've had in the past. We don't collect the numbers here for a couple more weeks, but as far as allocations, we know our small school fast pitch tournaments grew in size. They separated out. We didn't have to combine classification. So we believe numbers are going up. We know our attendance is holding steady. We're at a 10-year high last year, and we're pretty steady coming through the winter. Winter's our lowest participation ones just because we have least amount of sports. Everything's indoors. So, yeah, numbers are up, and I don't know. You probably got this on the radar for today. But with flag football passing, we expect it to increase drastically next year in the spring. Winter has grown in wrestling significantly on the girls' side and the boys' side, but especially in girls. And so winter is where we've seen the largest single sport jump with wrestling.
Let's briefly. I won't lead you too far down this rabbit hole in regards to flag football, but that was really exciting. I saw that passed. Tell us about that. Tell us what season that's going to be in, and tell us who can participate in that.
Yeah, any girls can participate, and the way it was written up by our membership is it's a spring sport, so it's really set up to have the state championship the weekend before the two formal spring championship weekends to allow students to do alternate sports. So they can schools or regions are going to be able to play in the fall, winter, or spring. We're working through the details. We have a young lady on our team who actually played for the Seattle Majestics. So she's our professional football player in the office. And so she's going to lead it, Bryn Langrock. And so she's working with a team. We have an advisory group. We have some ADs, John Applegate out of Lake Washington and James O'Neill out of Tacoma. Were instrumental in getting this off the ground in an experimental phase to gain the support. We had 93 teams that we know of that played this last winter.
Wow.
And so we hope to, double that in the next couple of years.
Is the Washington Officials Association involved? Are they going to be out there staffing those games?
Yeah, that's the goal. And so there's a couple of groups out there that do it now. So Todd and the WOA are working on what's that look like within their membership. So there's those you got to do a ball deal. There's all kinds of business side things that we need to get done. Main thing is the Seahawks have offered up another $200,000. So they've put up $381,000 to date to help schools with uniforms and equipment to jumpstart this. And they've committed another $200,000 next year. So there's the NFL and Seahawks specifically have been really good partners. Mario Bailey, Paul Johns before them have really been intentional in making this happen.
Mario Bailey, of course, a former WIAA athlete, Metro League athlete at Franklin High School. before going on to the University of Washington, now playing so many important community roles for the Seattle Seahawks, and we're so glad to have him. Weather always plays a role in spring sports. We see it here in Seattle. Last year, there were some articles about the softball games not being able to be rescheduled, and the weather last year, and sometimes the weather hasn't been too bad this year, but it can turn our fields in the city where we do not have field turf into muddy, sloggy messes. How do the schools and the WIAA manage weather-related disruptions during the spring season?
Yeah, it's probably the most difficult location for it is in Seattle, just because the limited field space. So many of the publics and privates trying to get on the same ones. But for the most part, the ADs, you're on your cell phone. I'm just driving back in from Kennewick from the state AD conference, and they're stepping out continually on Monday and Tuesday, rescheduling and scheduling events. So it's just part of it. Luckily, fast pitch, they can play multiple games in a day, so it's a little bit easier. Pitching innings isn't quite as big a deal as it is for baseball. So fast pitch is usually able to adapt a lot better than what we see our baseball teams able to do. But yeah, weather-dependent sports in the Northwest, there's a reason that T-Mobile has a roof.
Big time. There are some new technologies. I know I was at an event in last September down at one of the Tacoma Rainiers games, and it looks like they're adapting. Have you heard any different ideas in regards to what the districts are, what the schools are looking at in regards to field turf versus grass? Of course, the grass technology people will tell you that there's a far superior natural product to the field turf, but obviously the field turf has certain advantages. And I was wondering if you had any conversations about what school districts look at. Obviously, the budget's a key issue, and obviously with this Washington State legislature, it will continue to be a key issue. But what are some of the schools looking at to provide services for and to work with the municipalities?
Yeah, the challenge with the natural grass is the maintenance of it.
Mm-hmm.
And so who does that? And a lot of school districts aren't geared up with the right equipment or really the personnel to do regular maintenance. And then what ends up happening is, one, it's difficult to maintain for your own school team, let alone all the community use that you want to be able to try to get on there. So that's the advantage of artificial. Now, artificial also takes some maintenance, but that's more back raking and making sure that you're keeping the infill and the junk out of it. So either one requires some maintenance, just a lot less with artificial. So it's really a cost. If you can afford to put it in the upfront cost, then maybe you save some on the backside. If not, you just it's a labor of love. And those old school baseball, softball coaches, their home yard isn't nearly as nice as their school yard. And so it really kind of depends on the situation. I'm sure most are trying to get to artificial because they really want to be able to allow it for community use as well.
I tell you, there was a guy growing up. He worked for the Kansas City Royals. His name was George Toma. And I believe he was also the head groundskeeper for the National Football League when we were growing up. But George Toma, one of the things that he did was he had to take care of and he was an incredible guy with grass. But then Kansas City, as we recall, the Royals and Royals Stadium was AstroTurf there in the 70s and 80s. But they talked about all the things that George Toma did. And I remember in my college career, I would always reference George Toma. And since I didn't get to play as much as I wanted, I'd be out there taking care of the field, make sure the coaches didn't have to worry about that aspect of it. But you're right. There's some coaches who really put some real emphasis on taking care of their craft out there, and rightfully so. You want it to be attractive, you want it to look good, and you want it to give you an advantage.
Yeah, and a lot of schools have gone to just turfing infields and putting in some nice drainage and leaving the outfields grass. Again, it gives it a multi-use purpose, but it also saves a lot of money of that upfront initiative. Putting in a baseball field, it takes almost as much square footage for the outfield area when you go fence to fence as it does for a rectangle field because of the angles and the waist and the cut. So softball, baseball field, they're expensive.
Mick, are there any new rules or regulations or point of emphasis this spring for coaches or players, either safety or participation at various levels of sports and at various sports?
Yeah, not really so much in our spring sports right now. They're continually tweaking around the helmet rules. So the helmet guys, it's an interesting system. NOXI is the group that comes up with the rules on reconditioning. It's also the board of that is predominantly the helmet providers. So they're the ones determining what you got to do and how long helmets can be used. They're also the ones who are servicing and selling the helmets. So that's a constant struggle. In baseball, softball, they're talking more and more about shortening the lifespan of a helmet and what you have to do to repair it each week. I know one of the things that we're looking at is the requirement of mass for infielders beyond just the pitcher, third base, and fast pitch, slow pitch, and even baseball. Just again, for multiple reasons. And one, anything we do for safety that makes sense, we want to do. So we found that there are a few states that are requiring that now. So we're doing a little bit of investigative work on that.
With sports like track and field and tennis, usually having large rosters, what are some of the challenges that coaches have working with some of these and especially track and field? I know that we have a rather large track program at O'Day that I follow. It's great to see the parents when there are parents you haven't seen for a while. It's great because you're going to see them at the track meets, and with the kids in the infield we see each other. But how do we work to make sure that coaches can manage all of that and get kids enough participation?
Yeah, I mean, you really need an army of coaches. And then, it's getting harder and harder to get staff to volunteer and work those events. So if you get enough people there and work shifts, and you can run multiple heats, give multiple attempts in field events to make sure that every kid gets to throw. They've gotten creative with how they warm up. Some of them have been able, are fortunate enough to add some warm-up pits, so you can just go out and use some of them for competition and warm up in other areas so you can move through it a little quicker. I mean, really, you just need enough people. You need enough coaches. You need enough adults to be able to coach kids. Tennis coaches get real creative. They run, multi-tier practices. So they might, you hire a couple extra coaches if you got large teams. No different than if you have an extra basketball team or extra soccer team. So it's really just a matter of getting people coming out to help pull tape, run some timing, move hurdles, go fetch some tools out there and get it done.
That's that, and usually with the outdoor sports, that's what you have to do. You have to be flexible, you have to be nimble, and you have to go out there and fix those fields. And when you're on Rainier Avenue Radio, Mick, as you've learned, you have to be flexible and nimble so we can jump over any hurdle that's thrown at us. And we cleared one earlier in this show, and we're already at the halfway point. Daniel's going to take us to break, and to our listeners and folks watching, we will be back in about 3 minutes on your community radio station, WIAA Primetime on Rainier Avenue Radio .world.
Would you like to see when your favorite Rainier Avenue Radio show comes on? Check out our show schedule, updated weekly at rainieravenue.radio.world.
Are you in need of new or gently used clothing? Hope's Community Closet is here to help. We offer a wide range of clothing for men, women, youth, children, and infants. Join us on the fourth Saturday of each month from 12:30 to 4 at the Silent Task Force. We're giving clothing with care, community with heart. Lovely Ladies Lemonade for sale, and shop to the sound of old school soul. Any questions? Contact Alicia Kennedy, Executive Director of Women United at 206-316-7601. 206-316-7601. Come and find the perfect outfit for you and your family. We look forward to seeing you there.
Welcome to the Fitness Corner. I'm your host, Mark Bryant, and you're going to get a whole total body workout on my show, starting off with a warm-up, aerobics, strength training, cool down, and stretching every Friday from 11:30 to 12 right here on Rainier Avenue Radio.
Hey y'all, it's Traffic Jam with Kareem.
Thursday at 4 p.m.
Hey, Traffic Jam. Rainier Avenue Radio. Download the app so you don't miss out. What's poppin', what's crackin', shining. It's your boy, Cream the Dream, on another beautiful week on here on Traffic Jam in Seattle. I hope you guys doing what you're supposed to do, being you're supposed to be. I got a good show for y'all. A lot to talk about. You know, Kareem the Dream, keep up with everything.
Get your entertainment news with Kareem on the Traffic Jam Thursday at 4 p.m.
Generational wealth. Generational wealth. Generational wealth. What is generational wealth? We asked our communities, and this is what they had to
How
say.
does generational wealth play into my family, my family's history, my children? What am I doing for my children to perhaps build them more wealth? I think it goes both ways, because for many immigrant families who are laboring constantly to live, your children are raised a certain way. Your children adopt certain values, which then will become their life and how they live it. When I see folks that perhaps have copious generational wealth, I see a whole different mindset, different ways of treating people. And I see it in my own children too. I feel like a lot of those values, in a lot of ways, begin to get lost when you don't have to work so hard to
This
live.
campaign to create awareness to generational wealth is brought to you by the Department of Neighborhoods Generational Wealth Initiative, the Washington Housing Finance Commission, and Rainier Avenue Radio.world.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Are you ready for this?
this is Rainier Avenue Radio.world, the station that cares about our community.
Welcome back on your community radio station, the station that cares about the community, Rainier Avenue Radio.world. This is WIAA Primetime Weekly. During the legislative session, this should probably be called WIAA Primetime Monthly. I tell you, I was down there. They call you a lobbyist. And for those who don't understand that term, you stand in the lobby and you lobby legislators just outside of the little chambers, and you shake hands and you ask for support on legislation. Mick, I was down there getting two bills passed. One to put the driver's license, put the blood type on your driver's license, which Governor Ferguson has not signed yet, but we were anticipating him doing that here shortly. And then one that was going to be an education curriculum bill, where we're going to be able to take the importance of participating in blood donation. I'm doing a commercial for myself at Bloodworks Northwest. Participating in blood donation for students all the way from second grade all the way to high school. And it's so important to participate in the legislative process, as you know. And people ask, Juan, are you going to ask Mick around the transgender issues? And I will, but it's not going to be today. I've got to get myself out of the legislative mindset and get myself calmed down from all of the meetings and all of the handshaking and all of the hand wringing and all of the hoping and praying to get my bills through. But I did get two bills through, and we're really excited about that. But I'm gonna cool off on those topics. We will come back at another point, and we will have those types of conversations about legislative matters. And Mick, as you and I both know, it was at times quite contentious in Olympia. We got the budget finalized by the Senate, and the governor's office is still looking through that budget, trying to see if they can make sure that there are some points in a $79 billion budget for the state of Washington, which, I tell you, I grew up at a time when I was growing up, the budget was far less than that. So we have certainly moved into modern times in the state of Washington. Mick, as we move into the final stretch of the 2024-25 school year, how would you assess the overall state of high school athletics in the state of Washington?
I think we're in really good shape. Speaking of legislative, we had some legislators propose some bills last year related to transfers. So we went down and met and have had ongoing conversation with them, and they were willing to back off and let us review. And so one of our amendments does now allow a one-time transfer. So a student can transfer if they have to finish the school year in their current school, but at the end of the year, this year and every year going on, they get one time where they can transfer to another school without an actual move or hardship. They do have to sit 40% of the allowable games at the varsity level, so 4 in football, 8 in basketball, etc. But otherwise, they are fully eligible, and during that time, they can play JV if the school deems that appropriate. So we wanted to avoid a portal situation. We do not want to be in a situation like the NCAA where kids are jumping in the portal in the midst of playing in a tournament. But at the same time, we wanted to align with Olympia's wish to allow school choice in a little bit more flexible manner. So our membership, we pulled 20 some individuals together. They had 33 meetings since from January to this April. So in the span of 15 months, and passed 29-6 by the membership. So that will start next year. So that was a big one. And again, that was in response to Olympia, because we did not want our rules legislated without them fully understanding the impact of such legislation.
Tell me, does that and it's such an interesting thing, I'm sure, and you talked about the fact that colleges are really the NCAA is really turning into professional sports. I would assume, and you meet with so many of your colleagues across the country, that you don't want high school sports to start to take on that type of a feel. And so does this accomplish that? How do you feel? Does this get you in a situation where, and I like what you said, we don't want to have a high school portal.
Right. Yeah, I mean, the NCAA fought tooth and nail against all of these rules, and then eventually court stood in. There's a recent court decision where the court basically is taking on oversight, trying to take on oversight, and there's no way a judge or a court can do that effectively. So now you have people making their own rules or following whatever rules they want, knowing that there's not a lot of accountability. And what people don't understand is the WIAA started in 1905, and the reason it started was adults were starting to jump into high school games, and there was no body to say, hey, these are the rules and this is the way it is. It wasn't fair. So how do we maintain that in a world where everybody wants what they want? They want it right now, and it's a me first society. Well, our job is to try to take care of everybody. And we've talked about the kids we see on TV. We talked about the kids that are signing those professional contracts, but there's literally hundreds of thousands of others that this is their biggest game. And without this opportunity, that what the WIAA does in partnership with schools, they're not going to get that chance. I mean, look at what's going on with youth baseball. You're a baseball guy. How many kids, it used to be the neighborhood played baseball. Now you might have 1 or 2 kids in the neighborhood play baseball, and they're traveling, to Centralia for a tournament every weekend, and their teammates are coming from Spokane, Vancouver, Tri-Cities. We don't want that in high school sports, because once we lose it, it's gone. The NCAA is not coming back the way it was.
You touch on something important, and let's go to this question here about spring sports often overlap with the graduation season, and graduation and academic accomplishment is still important. How do we balance the academic milestones and the need to make sure that your grades are getting done in the classroom with not only just postseason competitions, but some of these are extending into just the regular seasons are just getting longer?
Yeah, we try to get our schedule buttoned up, our state tournaments. Sometimes some of the small East Side schools will have a little bit of an issue, maybe have a graduation on the same day. Prom and some other things. We can't, schools can control their schedule around that. So, what we think we bring to the table is we bring the incentive to be there. Like, you have to meet certain marks. And I mean, realistically, the mark of the WIAA for eligibility, you have to pass 5 out of 6 classes. You could have a 0.67 GPA under WIAA rules. Now, schools have the ability to ratchet that up. They know their community and their kids best. So if they think, hey, our kids can meet a higher bar, then let's do it. But by having some type of accountability for participation, we believe that incentivizes kids. and we can help keep them connected to make sure they're walking across that stage, right? I mean, the biggest award a kid gets is that high school diploma, because that opens up a lifetime of opportunities.
Well, let me go back to one more question I wanted to ask you about in regards to the locations of where we are. We have all of our different leagues, and obviously in the WIAA, Mick, and you see it on a weekly basis. You're sometimes in the schools that are right in the smack in the inner city of Seattle. Sometimes you're in schools in rural areas, and there's no schools anywhere around them. Sometimes you have a big semi-urban schools over on the eastern side of the state and so forth. Do a lot of the transfers happen in the urban areas, or do a lot of transfers and kids trying to get into other programs, they happen in some of the rural areas? Give me a sense of that.
Yeah, we are just now developing a tool. We've never tracked transfers. We didn't have a tool that could do it. We will have that starting next year with our partner with Final Forms. So I'll be able to give you data in a year. But typically the biggest ones we see, hearings that come to us that I have to make decisions on, are typically in more urban areas where there's more options for students, where they don't necessarily have to move to be able to attend a school. Now, in some areas, we have pockets where a 20, 30 minute or a mile radius is a 20, 30 minute drive or less. And so we'll see people move up and down like the Yakima Valley. Sometimes there'll be the other thing we're seeing is a lot more private schools. We've gone from a 17% membership to 20% of our membership. So about 80 schools are independent, and some of them are very small. And so they're having financial issues. They don't offer everything. Kids go try it. They want to leave, and they transfer around that, and they get caught up in the eligibility rules. And so that was another reason, is that we had some really good kids, good families that thought they were making decisions that were for the benefit of their student, but there are some consequences to their eligibility that came with it. So those are typically more urban type, where there's multiple schools.
How does the WIAA plan to support schools with the growing need to get athletes to participate in some of the underrepresented sports, and encouraging, and also, and this is another one, encouraging multi-sport participation? And I know, and you touched on it earlier. I know a lot of families, a lot of baseball families, their kids are only playing baseball, because if they don't only play baseball, we're never going to see them pitch down at T-Mobile. All 235 of these kids are never going to pitch at T-Mobile someday. So they're only going to play baseball. They're playing one sport their entire life. And what are we doing to break that mindset? Because Mick, all 235 of those guys are not going to pitch at T-Mobile Park.
Yeah. What we're trying to do is we're trying to give and really over promote some of those other sports that maybe don't get as much attention. I mean, with what Andy Knapp and Bryn have done with our social media, I think our Instagram following is second to Texas, who has about 3 or 4 times as many schools as us. And so we are trying to go out there and intentionally find those stories and highlight them through our social media of students who are in swimming, cross country, maybe sports that people aren't going to necessarily on Friday nights, but to recognize them when Athlete of the Week comes in. I mean, looking at the feats in those is as big as anything else. We also put every single state event on the network, and so people can see them. So it's not just the baseball, football. Those are drivers, they're revenue generators for us. They're of biggest interest in our country, but for us, we're trying to give love to everybody and make sure that all those kids have the opportunity to be seen by the people who care about them.
Are you surprised at how popular the WIAA Athlete of the Week has gotten?
Man, no.
I mean, it is.
we actually literally have, I think it's 6 staff members on a regular basis that sit down and vet those, because we get so many submissions and the choices are so difficult, and we want to be intentional in recognizing kids from around the state, all sports, a good demographic of our participants, and also make sure that we catch those feats that are in sports that maybe not a lot of people are aware of, but that we can highlight. So no, I mean, trust me, there's a reason we don't do all state, all tournament teams and all that ourselves. We leave that to other people because of the emotion around it. We think Athlete of the Week is a worthy one for us to do during the regular season. And yeah, there's a lot of people who care about those. Let me tell you what.
People are like, do you know Mick Hoffman? I go, I don't. not about that. It is absolutely amazing how popular and how big that has become. But that really shows the work that Andy and the crew have done for promoting it, and it means something to people.
Yeah, and exactly. Their promotion, the way they highlight those things, people care about that, and then we get people who give us suggestions based off that. So it's kind of like that flywheel, man. Once that thing's going, now we're just trying to keep up with it. But it's a great opportunity for our young professionals in the office to be able to go out there and learn what's going on around the office or around the state. So yeah, it's fun. We like it. And the team of the month now is another one that we've started. So we're looking at, what else do we have the capacity to do? Because, we need to recognize people who are doing great things, and it doesn't always have to equate to wins. But so we're trying to find a way to recognize those athletic leaders, the volunteers, those coaches that are putting in day out, kind of those unsung heroes. So we'll get better at it as time goes on. But Athlete of the Week's a great model.
He is Mick Hoffman. He is the executive director of the Washington Interscholastic Activities Association. I am Juan Cotto. I am a radio host and personality with characters and personalities. I'm a character, but a character with character on your community radio station, Rainier Avenue Radio.world. Producing the show is Daniel Bellis, who just got back from Earth Day, I believe. The crew at WIAA, the crew at Rainier Avenue Radio just spent the better part of the month of April promoting Earth Day activities. Every time I flipped on my phone on Facebook, I saw Tony B or someone interviewing students, talking to people at the Duwamish River. They really did a phenomenal job of highlighting the environment. And that's the beautiful thing about Rainier Avenue Radio. If you love sports, it's here. If you love interesting conversation, it's here. If you like in the environmental movement and people who are looking to support that in your community, it is right here. And then, of course, if you love music, it's also here on your community radio station, Rainier Avenue Radio.world. Looking back at the athletic year so far, I mentioned Rainier Beach winning the state championship in 3A basketball. I know there were some outstanding wrestling performances, but we don't really focus, Mick, on what goes on the courts and on the wrestling mats and on that aspect. We focus on the people who are working. So were there any special moments or achievements for administrators or coaches or any of your staff at the WIA that did things that were special during this last tournament season during the winter sports?
Well, just last night, Wendy Malich, who's currently at Peninsula School District, she was at Franklin Pierce for 37 years. Longest tenured board member, 19 years on the WI board, 20 plus on the state AD. She got inducted in the Athletic Directors Hall of Fame last night, which was a really cool event. I mean, she's one of those pioneering women. It was really interesting to listen to her speech. I mean, Wendy, I served with Wendy, so I've known Wendy 15 years. And really enjoy, just casual conversations with her. And to hear her speak last night about how intentional she was as a woman in a profession that was, especially when she started, dominated by men. Her father was a Hall of Fame coach at Peninsula School District for a long time. So she had good role models in that. But how intentional she was to go into a room and listen and be strategic when she spoke. And it makes a lot of sense because she spends a lot of time doing the recognition of others, formal awards programs at the national, state level, and then spending her time on our board. And you would never know. She's never, ever used, well, in all my years on the WI or, with all my experience, she speaks from the heart as if it's still her first year with that wisdom. So that was a really cool event for somebody who is truly a pioneer in the athletic leadership world in the state of Washington to be recognized. So that was a lot of fun. So that's probably the highlight for me of this year regarding our board members do anything. They're out working events all the time. Pat McCarthy from the Sea King, he's one of the floor managers in Tacoma. I mean, those guys, Jeff Lowell out of Bellevue, he is our tournament manager for both boys and girls state swimming. So they put a lot of work in supporting the programs despite being on the board. So
we love Pat McCarthy on Rainier Avenue Radio. There's no question about that. Tell us what keeps these long time people, 17, 18, 19, 20 years in high school athletics?
Yeah, I think it's goes back to, why do kids play? It's fun, right? As long as they're having fun, it's hard work. I mean, they make some decisions that really upsets people, their peers, and sometimes they got to tell them. But I think it's a sense of you're contributing. And, Wendy told the story. There was a keynote speaker at the event, and that opened up the state AD conference. And he said he asked her called her out and had her stand up. Nobody knew what the heck was going on. And he said, hey, my brother was in your leadership class 30 years ago. And he says every single day, and he's had some challenges in his life, he goes, your voice is in his head, what you did. So the influence that coaches had on us, that they had on individuals as coaches, and they get in a leadership role. I mean, we all want to spend our time. We want our time to be of value, right? Some people, it's about money, right? If I'm going to give you my time, you better compensate me with money. So, because the car I drive or the house I drive or the clothes I wear are important. I think people who stay in athletic leadership a long time, right? They do it because they know that they are providing an opportunity that they experience that will literally change people's lives or give them an opportunity to be in a position where they change people's lives based on the experience provided by them. So, you hear people talk about noble professions. I believe a coach who does it the right way. I believe an athletic leader who does it the right way, no different than a teacher that does it the right way, is one of the most noble professions that still exists in our world today. It is not a transactional experience. You absolutely have the chance to be transformational.
Mick Hoffman, the executive director of the Washington Interscholastic Activities Association, on your community radio station, Rainier Avenue Radio .world. Mick, as we near the summer, I'm going to ask you two questions. Number one, there's off-season programs or initiatives that potentially the WIAA could recommend for student athletes, but also what are some of the different types of things that the WIAA proposes for coaches to make sure that they are reducing the risk of burnout and to come back fresh for the next academic and athletic year to work with their kids?
Yeah, one of the things we're trying to get head coaches to do is utilize assistant coaches and or volunteer coaches. So you have, a lot of programs, especially when they're successful, but it really in anyone, everybody thinks they know better than the coach. Go watch a game at any level, right? They got it all figured out. So if you can find people with a similar philosophy and mold them, that you can relinquish some of the responsibilities and duties to them, whether it's the website, the communication piece, whether it's handling money, whether it's coaching some stuff. So I think that's one thing is coaches have to build out their army of supporters and utilize them. And I think that's a way, with the right parents and the right culture in a program, that's a way parents can get more involved. And if they try to overstep, then eliminate the opportunity for them. But that's one place that advice we give coaches: don't try to do it all. We had 7-on-7 football voted down a few years ago, and our football coaches were really opposed to it coming out in the spring sport because they're already doing fall sport. Then they have June, 2 weeks in June, then they might have a team camp. And it was like, you don't have to do it. You can be the CEO, right? Be the John Schneider of your 7-on-7 team. Let some of those young coaches who aspire to be head coaches, what a great experience. So we want to try to get coaches to do more of that. As far as out of season programs for kids, we would say first, talk to your coaches. Like, don't let people get in your head and divide you, or don't feel like you have to go someplace and spend a lot of money. That your coaches are going to be connected. They're going to know places you can go play. A lot of them are doing it cheap or labor of love. that, do your homework on it. Don't get caught up in that the more you pay, the better the program. There are fantastic opportunities out there that, all families should be able to access to extend that opportunity for kids who are interested. And you know what? Take some time off, get away, let it go. You're not going to fall behind. Like, let it go, come back refreshed. You're going to be moving faster and better than anybody else.
Take some time off and get away. That is that's sage advice for all of us, probably for a number of us listening. Sometimes you just need to get away, and that is doing less definitely can mean doing more sometimes. If I'm a young person who, and I'm one of those young people who thinks, geez, I could coach that team better than that Hoffman coach down there, and I know I know how to run the motion offense. What do we tell young people who are looking to get their foot in the door to coaching?
Yeah, I would say go do it, right? Go find a spot. I mean, there's all kinds of opportunities out there. It's hard to find coaches anymore. So there's opportunities. And when you go in, don't tell people how much you know. Go in there and learn as much as you can. I mean, that's the key once you're in, if you're going to make it. You want to tell everybody how much you know. They need to see it. So, but there's a lot of opportunity in youth programs. I know Boys and Girls Club in Southwest Washington, they were always trying to recruit coaches. It wasn't as easy to get parents to coach as what it once was. And so, heck, when I started teaching in 92, man, you had to apply and wait to get a freshman job. Now we're hiring off the street for varsity jobs for people that wouldn't have been applicants back in 92. And so I think find an opportunity, find the right opportunity, go learn from somebody who you trust and believe in, and then develop your own style. Like, make sure if a young coach can answer the question, this is why I coach because, then they're going to develop their style to align with that. And if their why aligns with a program, they're going to be a great fit. And if it doesn't, go somewhere else, because you're going to make everybody miserable, including yourself.
My final question of the day, Mick, and this might be the most serious question. This might be the most, I don't want you to stumble over this. Is that a closet behind your head?
It's a mobile closet, Juan. I'm a man on the move.
Always a pleasure to catch up with you, my friend, and I encourage you to have a safe travel wherever you are traveling back. I'm sure are you heading back down to Southwest Washington, or are you heading back to Lincoln?
Office for a couple days now.
There you go. Well, you wherever you are coming from, please be safe on the road, and don't accept any more phone calls from Daniel or I today. Daniel, as always, thank you so much for setting up Rainier Avenue Radio and be the producer to the stars. We appreciate you so much, and to you, our audience and listeners, thank you so much for participating and listening to just all the things that the WIAA does to support our student athletes throughout the state of Washington. For Mick Hoffman and Daniel Bellis, Juan Cotto says thank you on your community radio station, Rainier Avenue Radio.world. See you next week.
Great. Yep. Great being back with you guys.